disinvestment have become very important for your coming prelims, because 21-22 budget have come up with a disinvestment policy. A clear cut, unlike other years, this time it's not only disinvestment, in the Indian government have come with a clear cut disinvestment policy. In the disinvestment policy, the government clearly said that, okay, it's a very famous management principle. The government have already taken it in this budget. Okay, one of that managerial principle is that the government should not be. It's not the government business to be in business. It's not the government business. This is actually the finance minister have said that. While means government should not be in business, but actually through PSU, government is there in business. So there are loss-making PSUs are there. There are profit-making PSUs are there. Okay, so and there are strategic sector is there, non-strategic sector is there. So the government decided in this budget. Now in the coming years, the government will restrict themselves into few sectors, that too only in strategic sectors. And this budget also said that which sector the government will continue in the form of public sector enterprises. So that can be a prelims question. In which all sector the government will continue, or the government presence will be there. Rest will be privatized and will be or sold to the private sector. Okay. So in that way, this year, this disinvestment topic have become very important for you. Now, so normally disinvestment means, okay, it's opposite of investment. Means investing means you are investing in something. Disinvestment means the current investment or the current assets you are selling. But in India, disinvestment, so this disinvestment concept is applicable both to private sector and government. But in India, or from the examination point of view, the term disinvestment, we use it for public sector enterprises. Be very clear, okay? Disinvestment is actually selling the asset of a private company or a government company. But in India, or from your examination point of view, from the when you see the word disinvestment, the meaning is they are talking about the selling the certain shares or certain percentage of shares of government company. Especially here we are talking about central public sector enterprises. Similarly, there are state public sector enterprises there. Since we are talking about union budget, we are talking about central public sector undertakings or public sector enterprises. Okay, so basically disinvestment is the act of government selling or government liquidating its asset, or the subsidiary, or the process of dilution of a government stake in a public sector undertaking. It's a simple definition, okay? If the government is having a undertaking, public sector undertaking, so that's why it is called as public sector undertaking. If the government ownership is there higher, that's why an undertaking will become a public sector undertaking. And by having a higher shareholding in the public sector, the profits or the dividend it shares goes to the government revenue in the form of non-tax revenue. I discussed dividend and profit, non-tax revenue. Similarly, but for a loss-making PSU, there will be no profit. So it will be a burden. The government have to fund it. One thing this year's disinvestment policy clearly said is in this budget is that the government have no interest in running loss-making. That's it. See, the government is not going to completely exit from the public sector. They will remain in the strategic sector. But when it comes to the loss-making PSUs, the government is going to exit fully. BPSCL is not a loss-making. Air India is loss-making. So the strategy is, that's what I'm telling you, one by one. One, the government has said that, okay, the government will gradually, even profit-making PSU also government is going to privatize. But not every Indian Oil Corporation. Indian Oil is also a profit-making, but they are not going to sell. So they will have very few. In those strategic sectors also, the government will have very few public sector undertaking. They will consolidate, and the rest they will Now they don't have any other option to reduce the fiscal deficit. So BPCL selling is whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, that's a debate. Especially since we are in Kochi and we have a BPCL refinery. Okay, leave that. That's a debate, but again there have been there are some discussion is going on regarding this Bharat Earth Movers Limited BML. Government is going to brand. There was in just 1 or 2 days back after the budget. There's one unit is there in Kerala. They were resisting it. That's also a profit making, not to under fame. They have a mini Ratna profit making company. Okay, that too in the defense sector. But the government have planned it, so government will have certain thing in their mind. Okay, so government is by exiting certain sectors. Okay, try to understand. If you sell loss making PSUs, the government will not get the necessary receipts. Profit making thing only when they'll sell to. See, government have two agenda. One is to improve the non-debt capital receipts so that in future we can reduce the fiscal deficit. Plus, by giving to the private sector, the managerial expert or the functioning of the company will improve. Okay, so that is the basic aim of this disinvestment act. Again, we in this session will not go for the pros and cons. That's a main discussion. Okay, so for understand that. Okay, so the government decided there will be a clear-cut disinvestment policy being given and more details will come. And for this year, that is in the financial year 21-22, which all public sector enterprises will be disinvested is clearly mentioned. That can be a question. Or they will ask you which all sector the government will retain. So they can ask that also. Everything I will discuss. Okay. Now this department is very, very, very important. Okay. This Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, Department of DIPAM. Earlier they were called as Department of Disinvestment. Earlier this department name was Department of Disinvestment, so it was very clear. The agenda was clear, okay. So, but their functions have been improved. They are not only will be dealing with disinvestment, but also, so all the investment and the asset management of public sector undertaking, this will be managed by this particular department, and we keep in mind this department comes under Ministry of Finance. Since we are dealing with Ministry of Finance, you are supposed to know how many departments is there. They can ask you under polity. They will ask you, they will give you certain departments, they will ask you this department or these departments, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, under which ministry? So Ministry of Finance is having 5 departments, and this is one of those most important department, okay, which main aim is to help identify the public sector enterprises which have to be disinvested, and that in a proper way. Also, they will also manage the assets of the government, especially which assets? The government companies' assets. Okay. Now, other 4 departments. Okay, this also you supposed to know. Okay, that I told you there are 5 departments are there. One is DIPAM. Second, the main department is Department of Economic Affairs. The most important, 2 times UPSC asked this question regarding Department of Economic Affairs. You know the reason? Because Department of Economic Affairs is the department which deals with budget presentation, everything is done by this department. In that way, Department of Economic Affairs. Regarding the this preparation and other things, this department will do it. Now, other department is very easy for you. Department of Expenditure. You know that. So all the expenditure related matters will be dealt by the Department of Expenditure. Department of Revenue. All the revenue matters. Then Department of Financial Services. All other financial services will be dealt by the. So 5 departments are there. So Department of Financial Services, Department of Revenue, Department of Expenditure, Department of Economic Affairs, and Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. The most important department is Department of Economic Affairs. Department of Economic Affairs. Okay. So keep it like. Then now why? So regarding this disinvestment target. Okay. They can ask you the disinvestment target. Okay. See, every budget will come with a target. Whether actually that target will be realized or not, that is a question mark. So I will give you a trend, okay, how the every financial year when the budget is presented, there will be a target will be set. But whether the government will able to attain the target or not, that's a big question. Okay, so we need to know the history, especially in the last at least 4 or 5 years. Okay, so in the 21-22 budget, the target is very, very, very important. Okay, it is 1.75 lakh crore. Fact, but very important fact. And out of this 1.75 lakh crore, the government will, by selling 2 public sector banks and certain financial institutions like insurance companies. So out of this 1.75 lakh crore, 1 lakh crore will the government will get from public sector banks, PSB, public sector banks and financial institutions. So it is very clear here the financial institutions are one privatization of one general insurance company and LIC IPO, and also privatization of IDBI. Okay, so other than that, the government have not mentioned which are those 2 public sector banks. But very soon, within this month, that the now market is speculating which one will be privatized. Okay, whether a larger bank or a smaller bank. Okay, last budget there were mega merger. Okay, so the number of public sector banks is reducing. Already IDBI is, in one way, IDBI is privatized, but that still the government is holding. So not the LIC share, the rest of the government holding will be sold out. Okay, then 75,000 crore from the remaining by selling the central public. See, so we will be very clear. Okay, public sector bank, we never call them as central public sector enterprises. We call them as public sector banks. So financial institutions, we call them with different, they will not, we don't call them as central. Public sector enterprises are like BPCL, Air India, they are all central public sector. Now, what are those central public sector enterprises? I'll discuss, I'll show you. Okay, so we just have an idea. We don't know how UPSC will ask question. Okay, out of this 1.75 lakh crore, 75,000 from central public sector enterprises, 1 lakh from this public sector banks and financial institutions. Okay, then in the previous budget, that is in 21, okay, okay, in the this 2020-21 budget, we had a larger disinvestment target. But I already told you in the earlier class, it was a disaster, mainly because of this COVID. As of now, when the budget was presented, around 19,500 crore only approximately was collected. But in the government is expecting that in the next 2 months it will be another 10,000 will be collected. So it round not 10 or 12,000. Okay. So the government have restricted to actual will be 32,000 crore. We don't, again we have to wait whether it will happen or not. Okay. So that's a huge shortfall in the target and what is the actual collection. So many of the public sector enterprises which the government plan to privatize or sell in 2020-21, the government is going to do in 21-22. For example, BPCL was proposed here in 2021 only, but the market was not correct. And so this, anyway, the government have made it very clear that in 21-22, Air India, BPCL, and they have set a time limit also by September, October. These public sector enterprises will be sold to, because otherwise what will happen? If the government again fails in the disinvestment target, what will happen? Already our borrowing is very high. Again the fiscal deficit will increase. See, UPSC will say that, okay, UPSC will confuse you. UPSC will say that in the year 2020-21, the targeted disinvestment was realized. That has not happened. For that information only, okay, the targeted in 2020-21 was 2.1 lakh crore. But what we are going to realize is just only 32,000 crore. And that too, we will have clarity only once the financial year will get over. But anyway, it is sure that the target is not going to be attained. Now, to know the history, now why I am discussing this is that they will say that in the last decade, or in the last 5 years, the government disinvestment target is steadily increasing or steadily decreasing, or in the last 5 years the government target was attained. So such type of statement question, if they ask, you can easily answer it with this figure. I'm just taking I'm taking from the financial year 2010-11 onwards. The target is 40,000 crore. How much fund we realized in 10-11? See, fact is not important. The trend, I'm just telling you the trend. So we could not able to attain the target in this year. The next financial year, again 40,000. The actual fund realized is 13,000 crore only, approximately. 12-13, target was 30,000 crore. We realized 23,956 crore. Okay, so in 13-14, 40,000 target, realized 15,000 approximately, 50,890. Then 14-15. Now see, from this year onwards, this NDA government came to power. NDA government, that is the current NDA government 1 and 2. Okay, this 2014-19. So 43,000 was their target, they could not able to realize. 15-16, 69,500, they realized only. So most of the years, the target set and what actually realized was, there was a difference. It was always in shortage. But there things started changing. So it happened in 16-17 also. It was 56,500 and we realized only 34,939. But exception happened. Things started changing in 17-18. So 17-18 was you can say that a year where in the last decade, that was the year in which the target was first attained. So 1 lakh was the target, nearly 1 lakh 561 crore they attained. So 17-18, the target was attained. In 18-19 also it was successful. 18-19 the target was, the budget estimate was 80,000 crore. But what the actual is 94,727. So 17-18, in the year 17-18, the target was attained. 18-19 again the target was attained. In 19-20, so the government set a target of 1,05,000 crore, but they realized only 65,000 crore. So in 19-20, it didn't happen. 20-21, this was the highest target ever set. See, till now, what is the highest target set was? 1,05,000. And the highest we have attained is in 17-18. How much, means actually how the highest we have attained is 1,05,661 crore is in 17-18. After that, this much we have never attained till now. But the target, highest target set is in 20-21. Okay. So we know that what happened in 20-21, and we know what will be the. So on this is actually the background which made the government to come up with this disinvestment policy. Okay. So disinvestment policy have been taken up based on this, what happened in our earlier target. Now this time the government is very clear that whatever happens, we are going to attain the target, and a deadline has been given to sell each public sector undertaking. And already the DIPAM, the secretary, he's in news now. So many interviews going on. So how we are going to do it? Okay, many big announcements have been going on. Okay, so you can see that if you are reading news, you can see it. The secretary to DIPAM is talking and telling that how we are going to attain this target, 1.7 lakh crore. That is very crucial. See, first of all, try to understand that they were all good year. There was no problem. It was no problematic year. Plus, the government introduced certain new disinvestment strategies, like in the form of, which I'll discuss in capital market, exchange traded fund. Okay, so plus there is some again a controversy how the government attained it, that I'll discuss later. How the government, because it asked, see, the government used some technique, okay, And that's actually, you cannot, government will ask one public sector undertaking to buy another public sector undertaking. So that's something like, see, in prelims class, I will avoid all those analysis and discussion. Then otherwise, we will never get over, okay? So anyway, they will not ask you why what happened, what is the reason. But I'll discuss, when I'll discuss those tools, exchange traded fund, okay? We have a exchange traded fund called CPSC exchange traded fund, okay? Then we have Bharat, the exchange traded fund. We'll discuss that later, okay? Now, what is the disinvestment proposal? Okay, again, in this year budget, what is the proposal? What is the disinvestment proposal? Okay, so the proposal is that we know the target, okay, 1.75 lakh crore, okay, regarding public sector banks. One proposal is that it have not mentioned which bank it is, because what will happen then, the employees of the bank will start trouble. So the government, already one trouble is going on, and so they don't want to trouble and create another trouble, okay, but they have to decide, okay, which one it is there, okay. So the one clear thing which the government said that two public sector bank and one general insurance firm will be disinvested this year, okay. So they are here, actually what they are planning to do is, they are not going to disinvest, actually they are going to privatize, okay. So currently the government hold a majority stake in PSU banks, though government holding is more than 51%. So that will change. The government is planning to bring down in the two PSU banks the government share, either to bring down the holding below 51 or sell the entire stake to a private ownership. So this is the plan regarding public sector bank. Either whatever happens to this two public sector bank will be privatized. Either the government, if they are not getting a good buyer, the government will reduce the shareholding below 51, so it will not be a public sector bank. And or if they get a good buyer, fully sell it to a private ownership. So that is regarding public sector bank. Now regarding this general insurance firm, again they have not mentioned. So be very clear, currently there are 4 government owned. So this becomes, see, in 2 years back also, in one of those budget, the government planned to merge 3 general insurance company, okay. So but then later on the government decided not to merge, rather capital infusion was given, okay. So but now the government, so out of these 4, so the government, since the government have not disclosed which is the general insurance firm which they are going to sell, these, you just for your knowledge, note down, these are the 4 general insurance company. One is the New India Assurance Company is the largest general insurance company, okay. Then the other 3 are United India Insurance Company Limited, National Insurance Company Limited, Oriental Insurance Company Limited, okay. So earlier the 2, 3 and 4, that is, earlier the government planned to merge this United India Insurance, National Insurance and Oriental Insurance and to make it into one. But that plan was dropped. So we will see that out of this 4, see, and along with these 4, there is one more is there, General Insurance Corporation is there. But they are not direct insurance company, they are reinsurance company, reinsurer. Okay, so that's why I am not discussing that. Regarding that, I will discuss later, okay. So just be very clear, which general insurance company they are going to privatize, that insurance company you have to study in detail. Okay, and similarly these 2 public sector banks which is going to be. So public sector we will discuss again in money and banking as a current affair. So further I will discuss there. Okay, so these are the things which been discussed in their budget. Okay, now another thing is LIC IPO. So there is a big plan is there, because LIC, if the LIC go for IPO, okay, currently LIC is managing an asset worth 32 lakh crore and LIC is currently 100% owned by the government of India. So even if the government sell 10%, it will be a huge revenue for the government. So how the government is going for LIC IPO, we don't know how much percentage or how much fund the government is going to raise through LIC IPO. The government have not set any target, okay. But the one thing is clear, the government will go for the initial public offer for LIC, okay. So by going for LIC, and once LIC goes for IPO, it will be one of the largest IPO done by the government in terms of market capitalization, okay. So to do that, the government require legislative amendment, so that will happen in the ongoing session of the parliament. Okay, so again we will discuss further in detail when the LIC actual IPO happens. So at that time only we will get correct idea. But these things have been mentioned in the budget. This is going to happen. And further, so through LIC IPO, through privatization of general insurance company and 2 public sector bank, the government is trying to raise how much? 1 lakh crore. Remaining 75,000 from disinvestment of these companies. Okay. The government is planning to complete sale. Okay. It's clearly said that government is going for complete. They are not going to sell certain percentage. Complete sale of BPCL, Air India. BPCL is profit. It's a mega. You can say that it's a very profit-making company. BPCL, Maharatna company. This Air India. Okay. So Air India, they are going for. It's a loss-making. They will go for it. Then Shipping Corporation of India, Container Corporation of India. Already been sold to LIC is holding a larger share, but the government share, the government is planning to sell it. Then Bharat Earth Movers Limited, okay, it's a Mini Ratna company. It's basically a strategic, which they are going, means they are into defense equipment also. So that's why there have been some resistance on the part of one of the units in Kerala. Okay. Then Pawan Hans Limited, okay, they are specializing in helicopter servicing, okay, helicopter service. They are all profit making. Then Nilachal Ispat Nigam Limited, NINL. And then others also will be there. But these things are very clear. And to disinvest these public sector enterprises, the government have set a deadline. So within that deadline, they will be selling it off. And the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management has been given the charge of it. Okay. And it also said that Niti Aayog will choose the next set of public sector enterprises which will be privatized. Okay. So now coming to the disinvestment policy. So this budget have clearly come with a disinvestment policy for the government. Okay. So in that it said that, okay, in the disinvestment policy the government said that in strategic sectors, in very, very important sector, there will be bare minimum presence of the public sector enterprise. There will be presence, but the presence will be minimum. The remaining CPSEs in the strategic sector will be privatized. So the remaining public sector enterprise in the strategic sector will be either privatized, or it will be merged, or will be subsidized with other CPSEs. So there will be the number of public sector undertakings will be lesser. Now in non-strategic sector, the government is very clear. So in the strategic sector, the presence will be very minimum. But in the case of non-strategic sector, either all the non-strategic sector, what the government will do, they will either privatize or it will be closed. So in future, in the non-strategic sector, there will be no presence of the government in the form of public sector enterprises. Then, where the government will have presence, it's clearly mentioned, okay, government will have presence only in these 4 strategic sectors. They are 1, atomic energy, space and defense. So, atomic energy, space and defense, the government will have presence. Then, transport and telecommunication, the government will have presence. Third, power, petroleum, coal and other minerals, the government will have presence. Banking, insurance and financial services. So, other than these 4 sectors, there will be no public sector undertaking in the future. So these 4 sector, be very clear. They can change the sector and can confuse you. Similarly, under the disinvestment policy, the central government will incentivize the state government also to do the same. Like this, they will ask the state government to disinvest or privatize their state public sector enterprises. Okay. So, in order to do that, the government will come with an incentive package. So, this is the disinvestment policy suggested in the budget 21-22 and have made this topic very, very important for you. Okay. Then also it said that, okay, under the disinvestment policy, okay, I told you most of the disinvestment target except 2017-18 and 18-19 was a failure. So this year in the policy it is clearly saying that there will be timely completion within the time of closure of sick or loss making CPSEs. So within a time span, within a set time, loss making PSEs will be privatized, and there will be a revised mechanism will be brought in to do that. Finally, the policy aims at minimizing the presence of central public sector enterprises, including financial institutions, and they will allow new investment space for private sector. So why with the government withdrawal, in those sectors, the private sector will be allowed, private sector will be promoted. This is the aim which the disinvestment policy is coming up. And certain other measures the budget have announced is that, okay, all disinvestment announced so far will be completed in the before the end of the financial year. That is, so what all the target been set, which all regarding the public sector banks or general insurance company or the Air India or BBCL etc. will be completed before March 2022. Also, for the next set of privatization, Niti Aayog have been given the target, okay, to pick up the next list of central public sector enterprises for disinvestment, okay. So this makes this topic very important. There will be further news regarding disinvestment. Please update it, okay.